You know what's funny about loyalty, sweetheart? It bites. 3 people sank their teeth into someone for you last night, drew blood, metaphorically speaking, and you slept right through it. Isn't that delicious? See, while you were off in dreamland, doing your little evening routine, blissfully unbothered, something happened. Somebody opened their mouth about you. Something ugly, something built brick by brick to demolish the house of who people think you are. Your name, your character, that whole carefully curated reputation. Someone took a wrecking ball to it with their words. And here's the thing, gorgeous. 3 people in that room heard every syllable, and every single one of them looked disgusted, not uncomfortable, not doing that awkward, should I say something, shuffle. Disgusted, because what was said about you last night. It crossed a line, and these 3 people knew it the second the words dripped out of that person's mouth like poison off a spoon. And what happened next is what I can only call a public unmasking. Public unmasking. I want to say that again because it tastes so good. Right there, in front of everyone, they defended your honor. Out loud, without hesitation, and I need to walk you through exactly what I'm sensing about this because, oh honey, there is so much more underneath it than just someone stood up for you. This is bigger than that. This is a moment that's going to send shockwaves through your life in ways you can't even imagine yet. So stick with me, because we are going deep into this one. Strap in. So let's start with the feeling I'm getting, because before we even get into who these people are, I want you to sit with this for a second. You know that feeling, that gut feeling, where you walk into a room and something feels off. Like the air's been rearranged, like people went quiet a little too fast, or someone's smile was just performing. Yeah, that's the residue, that's the leftover energy from something that happened recently, something involving you, even if you weren't physically there. And what I'm picking up is that this happened recently. Like within the last week, maybe even the last few days. And it happened in a setting where you were not present. A dinner, a gathering, maybe a group chat that spiraled into actual conversation. Somewhere you weren't, but your name showed up uninvited. And listen, I know that feeling of finding out someone talked about you when you weren't there. It's such a specific kind of unsettling, right? Because your mind immediately starts doing its little doom spiral. What did they say? What did they say? Who heard it? Do they think differently about me now? It's local worse than if someone said it to your face, because at least then you'd know exactly what you're dealing with. But this lives in the dark for a bit. And I think somewhere in your gut, you already sensed that something shifted. Maybe you noticed someone being extra sweet to you out of nowhere. Maybe someone gave you a look you couldn't quite decode. Maybe you got a text that felt slightly protective. Someone checking in on you for no clear reason. That's not random, love. That's the aftermath of what I'm talking about. So here's what happened. Picture this. And I want you to really picture it because the details matter here. There's a room. Could be someone's living room, could be a kitchen table, could even be a car with a few people crammed in after an event. Doesn't matter exactly where, but there's a small group, 3, 4, maybe 5 people. And one person, someone who has some kind of access to your life, some kind of relationship where they cross paths with the people in this room, starts talking, and it starts small. It starts the way gossip always starts. A little comment, a little nudge, a little, Have you noticed how they've been acting lately? Or, I heard they did this. Or, honestly, I don't even know why people mess with them like that. Hold that thought. You're looking at reality all wrong. They thought they broke you, but they just triggered your mutation. I wrote a 73-page blueprint to finalize your transformation. Audiobook or ebook, link in the description. Anyway, back to the madness. You know how it goes. It's casual at first, almost playful, like they're just sharing an opinion, and then it doesn't stay casual. It builds, because this person, whoever they are, has been sitting on something, some kind of resentment, some kind of jealousy, some kind of insecurity they've been hauling around like luggage they refused to check. And last night in that room, it all came pouring out. And it got personal, it got specific. It went into territory that wasn't fair, that wasn't true. Or that was true but twisted so far out of context that it became something cruel. Maybe they dragged up something from the past. Maybe they made assumptions about your character, your intentions, your relationships, your choices. Maybe they even brought up something private, something that was only ever shared in confidence, and weaponized it. And the room went quiet for a second. That kind of quiet, where everyone's eyes dart around, where nobody knows if they should laugh it off or call it out. And then, this is the part that gives me actual chills, honestly. 3 people in that room didn't stay quiet. 3 people looked at each other and then looked at the person talking, and one by one, they pushed back. I'm seeing this so clearly. One of them, I think this might be someone older, someone with a kind of quiet authority, someone people naturally listen to, was the first to speak up. And it wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was calm, but it was firm. Something like, "That's not okay," or "I don't think that's fair to say," or even just a flat, "I don't agree with that." And the moment that first person spoke, it cracked the whole thing wide open, because then a second person jumped in, and this one was a little more fired up about it. Maybe someone closer to your age, someone who actually knows you, like really knows you. Someone who spent real time with you and knows firsthand that what was being said didn't match the person they know. And they said so. Clearly, maybe even with a little heat, a little, "Actually, that's not true, and I'm not going to sit here and let you say that." And then the third person, and this one is interesting because I feel like this person might not even be someone super close to you. This could be someone more on the periphery, someone who doesn't have a deep personal stake in defending you, but who has a strong sense of fairness, a strong moral compass. And this person basically said something like, "Even if that were true, which I don't think it is, that's not something you say about someone when they're not here to speak for themselves." Like they called out the whole architecture of it, the unfairness of demolishing someone's character when they can't respond, when they don't even know it's happening. And in that moment, the energy in the room flipped completely. The person who started all this went from feeling powerful, feeling like they had an audience, feeling like they were starting something juicy, to suddenly feeling exposed. Because now it wasn't about you anymore, darling. Now everyone was looking at them. And that's the public unmasking. Yeah, that's the moment I keep coming back to, because unmaskings are not really about the original target. They're about the person who started it finally being seen for what they're doing. And last night, that happened in real time, in front of people whose opinions actually matter to this person. Now here's where it gets really interesting. No cap. Because I want to talk about who these 3 people might be. Because I think this is going to land for you in a real specific way. The first person, the calm one with authority. I keep getting a sense of someone who holds some kind of role in your life or in this group dynamic where people just naturally respect what they say. This could be a parent or an older relative, a mentor figure. Maybe even someone like a boss or someone in a leadership position within a friend group or family structure. Someone whose word tends to settle arguments just by being spoken. And what's beautiful about this person speaking up first is that it gave everyone else permission to speak too. Sometimes all it takes is one person with a certain kind of presence saying, "No, that's not right." And suddenly the whole room remembers their own spine. The second person, the one who got a little fired up. I really feel like this is someone who has a genuine ongoing relationship with you. Someone who has laughed with you. Someone who's maybe ugly cried with you. Maybe been through something significant with you. This is someone who has personal evidence, personal memories, personal experiences that directly contradict whatever was said. And when they spoke up, it wasn't just defending an idea of you. It was defending the actual person they know. The real you. The you that shows up in the small moments. The unguarded moments. The moments nobody else gets to see. And that kind of defense hits different because it's not theoretical. It's lived experience talking. And the third person, the one with a strong sense of fairness. I think this person might actually surprise you the most, if you ever found out who it was. Because I get the feeling this might be someone you wouldn't necessarily expect to go out of their way for you. Maybe someone you don't talk to often. Maybe someone you've had a slightly distant or even slightly awkward relationship with in the past. And yet when it mattered, when the moment called for someone to say, "This isn't right," they did. And honestly, that might end up meaning more to you than you'd expect, because sometimes the people who defend you when they don't have to are the ones who reveal the most about your true character, because it shows that even people who aren't deeply attached to you can see who you really are. Now let's talk about the person who started this, because I think there's something important here too. I don't get the sense that this is some random stranger or some distant acquaintance. I get the sense that this is someone close, someone who has access to your life, your circle, your information. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Treasure. Sometimes the people who talk about us the most negatively are the people who are closest to us, because proximity gives them material, and unfortunately, sometimes it gives them motive. Motive. I'm sensing some kind of underlying jealousy here. Maybe this person has been watching things unfold in your life. Good things, growth, positive changes, maybe even just you simply being happy and thriving, and instead of feeling joy for you, something curdled inside them. Envy does strange things to people. It convinces them that someone else's fire is somehow burning through their oxygen, even though that's literally never how it works. And I think this person has probably been talking about you for longer than just last night. Last night might have just been the moment it finally became visible. The moment it finally got said out loud in front of people who were willing to call it out. But I think if you looked back, and I'm not saying go dig anything up, I'm just saying if you reflect, your body knows. If you reflect, you might realize there have been small signs. Little comments here and there, little slights, changes in tone, maybe even little things that got back to you, secondhand, that you brushed off at the time, because you didn't want to assume the worst about someone. You're not that kind of person. And honestly, that's so human. We give people the benefit of the doubt because we'd rather be wrong about suspecting someone than right about it. But sometimes our gut knows things before our mind is ready to accept them. Here's the part, though, that I think is the most important, and I want you to really hold on to this one, precious. The fact that 3 separate people, in a room, in real time, with no script, no plan, no coordination, 3 people, independently, decided that what was being said about you was wrong enough, unfair enough, untrue enough, that they had to say something. That tells you everything you need to know about how you are actually perceived by the people who know you. Because here's the thing about character. You cannot fake it long term. People might be polite to your face and say something different behind your back for a while. Sure. But when push comes to shove, when someone actually tries to burn you down in front of others, the truth tends to surface. And the truth that surfaced last night is that the people around you, at least these 3, see something in you worth protecting, worth standing up for, worth setting the record straight about, even when you weren't there to do it yourself. And I think there's a deeper layer here too, which is about timing. Why now? Why did this happen now, at this point in your life? And I keep feeling like you've been going through some kind of transition recently, some kind of shift. Maybe in your relationship, maybe in your work, maybe just internally in how you see yourself and how you're choosing to show up in the world. I think you've been growing. I think you've been becoming more confident, more visible, maybe even just happier than you've been in a while. And sometimes, and this is just how it goes, unfortunately, when we start growing, start glowing a little brighter, it makes certain people uncomfortable, especially people who are stuck, especially people who feel like they're not where they want to be in their own life. Your growth can become, in a strange and sad way, a spotlight that throws their own stagnation into sharp relief. And instead of looking inward, they look outward. They look at you, and they try to find something to say that will make them feel like they're still on top, still in control, still relevant. But here's what I really want you to take from this. What was said about you last night doesn't define you. No, it never did. What defines you is what those 3 people saw and knew to be true, even when it would have been easier to just stay quiet and let it slide, because staying quiet is always the easier option. Speaking up, especially in a moment of social tension, especially when you risk awkwardness or conflict or making things weird, that takes something. That takes care. That takes a real relationship with you, or at minimum, a real sense of integrity in themselves. And 3 people chose that. 3 people chose you. Even in your absence, I also want to talk about what happens next, because I don't think this is the end of the story. I think word is going to get around, not in a dramatic blow-up kind of way, necessarily. But I think the energy of last night is going to settle into the group, into the dynamic, and things are going to shift. The person who said those things, I think they're going to feel it. I think they already feel it, actually. That sinking feeling of, oh no, that didn't land the way I thought it would. And I think there's a decent chance that person is going to either go quiet for a while, maybe pull back from the group a bit. Or they're going to try some damage control. Maybe reach out to you directly with some overly friendly gesture, almost like nothing happened, hoping you never find out, or hoping that if you do it'll seem less significant because they're being so nice. Now, watch for that. If someone who's been a little distant suddenly gets weirdly warm toward you out of nowhere, that might be exactly what's going on. But more importantly, I think this moment is going to deepen your relationships with these three people. Whether you ever explicitly talk about it or not, there's something that happens between people when one person defends another. Even if the person being defended never finds out, it forges a kind of invisible chain, a loyalty, a bond. These three people now carry a little piece of you with them, a piece they chose to protect, chose to shield your name when it mattered. And even if you never have a conversation about it, even if this stays completely unspoken forever, I think you're going to feel a shift in how these people show up for you going forward. More warmth, more protectiveness, maybe even more honesty with you. Because once someone defends you, they often start feeling even more invested in your life, almost like they've put their own reputation on the line for yours. And I want to gently say this too. At some point you might find out. Not necessarily through some big dramatic reveal, but maybe through a passing comment. Maybe one of these three people, weeks or months from now, says something like, "Oh yeah, by the way, someone said something kind of messed up about you a while back, but don't worry, we shut that down real quick." Casual, almost like an afterthought. But when you hear it, I think it's going to hit you in a really meaningful way, because you'll realize that while you were living your life, completely unaware, people were quietly building a wall around your name. And that's such a profound thing to sit with, Angel. It means you're not as alone as you sometimes feel. It means that even in rooms you're not in, even in conversations you're not part of, your name carries gravity. Good gravity. Because of how you've treated people, how you've shown up, the relationships you've built. I also want to address something that I think might be sitting with you, or will be if any of this resonates. And that's the nagging feeling of, who could it have been? I know that's probably the first question buzzing in your head right now. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you to go on some detective mission because, honestly, that energy doesn't serve you. But I will say this, trust your gut. Trust your gut, your intuition. If a name popped into your head the second I started describing this person's energy, that's worth paying attention to. Not as something to confront, but just as information. Sometimes knowing isn't about doing anything with it. Sometimes it's just about guarding your own heart a little more carefully, being a little more selective about what you share with that person going forward, and letting the universe, or honestly, just basic social dynamics, handle the rest. Because it's already handling itself. These three people already handled it for you. One more thing I want to leave you with because I think it's really the heart of all of this. So much of what was said about you last night, I believe, came from a place of someone projecting their own insecurities onto you. Textbook stuff, really. Maybe they accused you of something they themselves are guilty of. Maybe they twisted a story about you because the real story, the one where you're doing well, where you're growing, where people genuinely care about you, was too uncomfortable for them to sit with. And that's not your burden to carry. You don't have to make yourself smaller to make other people comfortable. You don't have to smother what's working in your life because someone else can't handle it. Those 3 people who defended you last night, they weren't just defending your reputation in that moment. In a way, they were defending your right to keep growing, keep glowing, keep being exactly who you are without apology. So if you've been feeling a little extra love lately, a little extra protectiveness from certain people, a little bit more of that "are you okay?" energy that seemed to come out of nowhere, now you know why. Last night, while you were living your life, 3 people fiercely defended you, were genuinely disgusted by what was said about you, and gave you a public unmasking you didn't even know you needed. And whether or not you ever find out the full details, I hope you can feel, even just a little, that you are seen, you are valued, and you are far more loved and protected than you sometimes realize. Carry that with you today, beautiful.